Tonight, is AI a threat to Bitcoin? Taking the orange pill, and much, much more. The best and worst deal in the history of deals. All this and a whole lot more tonight on the Chillstream. So see you guys in 2 minutes, and make sure to smash up that like button. All right, that was a little bit more than 2 minutes, but we're kind of struggling right now. We are under some duress in other parts of our existence, and it's taking its toll. Nothing that's the end of the world, but it could things could be going better. I could have made some better decisions, but I didn't. And now we have to live with the consequences of your decisions, don't you? Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Let's throw that banner up there and remind you to smash up the like button. There's nothing more important in life than to smash up the like button. You might think it's your job. You might think it's your family, your wife, your kids, your health. No, the most important thing right now in your entire life is to smash up that like button. Make sure to do it now, and that way you won't forget later. So we're going to get rid of that. There we go. And so here we are, another Monday night chill stream. This is going to be better than average, I think. And even though I think the average has been improved over the years, but I finally have gotten through like a ton of material on whatchamacallit, on Bitcoin 2023, like the end of the political stuff, which, you know, how do you know you're being bullshitted? Because they walk the walk and they don't talk the talk. So and it still shows you how early things are. Like we're super, super, super fucking early. You have no idea how early you are, and that's both good news and you know and bad news, because eventually when enough people see that the building is on fire and start running for the exits, you're gonna want to be out that door first. You know what I mean? You're gonna want to be there first. So this is an example of a guy giving a good speech. This is RFK Jr. It's 1 minute from Bitcoin Miami. Here's a guy that is saying all the right things, but he has not put his wealth or his fortune in Bitcoin. He just wants to take yours.
Free money is as important to freedom as free expression. A government that has the power to starve its citizens when they're disobedient will inevitably turn our entire country into serfs. They monitor our every movement, our communications, our every transaction. And the technologies they use to monitor us can also be used to control us. If it has a good enough excuse, the government can now take away all of our freedoms. And guess what? There is always a good excuse. Bitcoin is a bulwark against precisely this kind of government and corporate expansion and intrusion. It has been used to bypass oppressive government controls over the monetary systems, as in Canada and Myanmar. As president, I will make sure that your right to hold and use Bitcoin is inviolable.
Okay, so there's RFK Jr. Sounded kind of crazy. Sounded like a conspiracy loon. Hey, man, they're out. The government's always going to find an excuse to violate, you know, to burn the Constitution. You know, let's enslave you. Let's make you a serf. You know, this is all right. He's a fringe political figure, but I mean, the Kennedy name. You know, I guess it still matters to boomers, I suppose. But the Bitcoin crowd was eating this up, and you know, I hate to be the kid that points out that the emperor's not wearing any clothes, but the emperor is not wearing any clothes in the sense that if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. instead of saying now you can donate to my campaign, you can send me your Bitcoin via Lightning Network, that just means you have no Bitcoin. The thing he said, he literally described Bitcoin as your defense against tyrannical government, right? As your freedom. That's what he describes it to you. This is now send it to me. So when I get to the White House, I'll guarantee something. You ain't guaranteeing shit from me. And he doesn't even believe what his speechwriters have written, because he would have followed it up with, you know, and I own Bitcoin, but he doesn't, right? Ted Cruz does, as flawed as he is. Cynthia Lummis does, as flawed as she is. So if they gave that speech, you know, you could say, well, you know what? They're kind of putting their money where their mouth is. But this guy's just he's just talking shit, you know, and telling you he's gonna preserve, you know, from the Oval Office, he's gonna preserve your right to transact. And I assure you, he doesn't have that ability. No president has that ability, right? He's saying he's going to be a benevolent dictator. And to this audience who, you know, is just waiting for the Constitution to go up in flames so that Hitler can come back and rescue you, or whatever the fuck you think is going to happen, whatever delusional fucking nonsense runs through your brain on the daily, you know, none of that's going to happen. There's no benevolent dictator going to fix it. That hasn't worked. It's never fucking worked literally in all of fucking human history. But that doesn't stop you from believing. You believe in stuff that doesn't exist and has never existed. Jews believe in anti-Semitism. Blacks believe in racism because of the color of their skin or some shit like that, you know. And Jews really believe that, you know, people are unpleasant to them, you know, 109 times in history because, you know, for no reason whatsoever. They're just jealous because the Jews are smarter and, you know, smarter and better at making money. But it's at a certain point, the oligarchs have all the money they're ever going to fucking need, and the money doesn't matter. And I'm gonna this next story. Next story is funny because I grabbed it from Fox News. What's funny is the expert they go to. I think I said a couple of weeks ago. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me show you the clip. It's about the commercial store Target and some of their recent troubles.
Well, as we always say on this show, go woke, go broke. And isn't that the case? Just check out what's happening to Target in the U.S. It has lost $9 billion with a B dollars in market value since causing controversy over its rollout of a Pride collection featuring LGBTQ-friendly clothing for children. Now, to discuss this and lots more, filmmaker and my favorite New Yorker, Ami Horowitz, joins me now. Ami, thanks so much for...
So who thought this was a good idea, right? Who thought, like somebody said, we're going to make pedophile uniforms for children and sell them so that every child wearing this shit is an advertisement to a pedo, right? That's just an open invitation. Who came up with this idea and pitched it to Target, right? Which is a low-end retailer similar to Walmart, and said that this was a good idea. And the people at Target said, oh yeah, it's a good idea. You know, it's a disaster. They lost $9 billion. Everybody sold their stock. This was the worst conceivable idea, but it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to get fired. Nobody's going to lose their job. No one's going to lose a paycheck over this. You know what I mean? They're just and this was planned, mind you, to get clothing on the shelf in the store takes like 6 months. You got to order it from China, sizes, colors, blah 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 blah. Then they got to make it. Then they got to put it in the boat, ship the boat over here. Then go through customs, blah 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 blah. Then get distributed, throughout the entire United States, and then have everything blow up in your face. This was planned a long time ago. And who was it planned by? People who want to rape children. There's no way around it. The funny thing about the guy in the fucking video goes, and now to talk about this, let's go to some Jewish dude, which is actually the right source, except he's treating this Jewish dude like, whatever, as he's the solution to the problem and not the source of the problem. The title of tonight's episode, La Kosher Nostra, right? A little bit of a play on words from the Italian La Cosa Nostra, right? Meaning this thing of ours. But La Kosher Nostra is the real criminal gang that essentially runs the planet Earth. They're the criminals that print all the fucking money and control everyone at every fucking level. Okay, the control at the top, obviously, in Target is near absolute, and no one will ever tell them to their no to their face. They just won't, because you will lose your status. You don't want to become starving and homeless, and they have the power to do that to you. And the higher up you are in the food chain, the softer you are, the more pleasure orientated you are, and you cannot give up that world of pleasures and soft living. Got a comment, Virgil Doc, Purple Heart. Welcome to the show, sir. So yeah, Target loses $9 billion. Doesn't bat a fucking eye. Does not bat a fucking eye. And you have to wonder who has that kind of money. Who can do this? Like, who can afford to lose that? Well, there's here's a quick video this is from Shitcoin Daily. So Old Coin Daily or something like that. I don't think they're 100% right in everything, but they're kind of connecting a few dots, even though there's some pretty big gaps in there. But here's what even shitcoiners, even fucking shitcoiners, this is how they're viewing the world.
Ghislaine Maxwell, her father was an extremely rich man. He died, and we don't know why, back in like the 90s. And then Jeffrey Epstein popped up out of nowhere with all these billions, and nobody really understood how he made his money. He just sort of popped up onto the scene. He then mysteriously dies, and who pops up? Sam Bankman-Fried with all these billions, supposedly made it by arbitrage trading Bitcoin between Japan and America in 3 years, $9 million, which I think personally is just impossible. Where is this money going? Where is this money coming from? I think SBF was definitely the establishment. I think they threw him under the bus as FTX clapped. He says things he's not supposed to say, or his parents know things and say things that they're not supposed to say, then he'd get Epstein, I don't know. But what I'm saying is I think they're all part of the establishment, and the money is just moving from different places. They want us to believe there are aliens in the sky that they shot down. So I believe this. Why not?
Okay, so girl making the point that the Chinese spy balloons or UFOs are designed to distract us, and she is sort of pointing out that it does appear to be a pattern here. What she gets wrong about Robert Maxwell, and I oddly remember the story because the guy was going to try and buy the Daily News. He was presented as an Englishman, not a fellow Englishman. He was presented as an Englishman who had made his fortune in newspapers in England, and he was looking to buy the Daily News, and they blocked him from doing that. And he died on a yacht in the Caribbean. So he was an older guy, late 50s, mid 50s, obviously a soft lifestyle, didn't exercise, no muscle tone, whatever. He's drunk walking around on his yacht one night, and he probably stumbled and banged his fucking head on a rail or something, and just rolled off the boat fucking into the water, and that was that. I mean, that's really the most likely scenario because people fall and smash themselves on boats all the time, and rich dudes drink on their boats all the fucking time. So, this guy just happened to do it, and die. But whatever, it is that there's a direct line from Robert Maxwell to Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein. And yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's, it wasn't clear how he made his money. What did he do to make money? We don't know. And she does say that, we're talking about SBF, which is a much more current scandal. That trial's still going to come up. He made, $9 billion in 3 years, trading the difference in price of Bitcoin in Japan. He would buy it cheaper in Japan and sell it for profit in America, supposedly, right? Which is, I don't know how much money you would need to do that, but that would be more money than anyone would have to make $9 billion in profit. Earl Pipe, I'm not sure who you are, Earl. That parent of his looked like David Lynch a month after he died and be embalmed. Yeah, I think David Lynch is a goy though. I don't know that David Lynch is a member of the tribe. But anyway, welcome to the show, Mr. Pipe. Welcome to the show, Mr. Pipe. The thing about the spooks and control and everybody being here, like that Lynn Alden character, and this, I want to essentially put this, be done with this. I was trying to figure out why are they popping up in these swan videos all the time. And here's a perfect example, and it kind of dovetails with that video that I was just showing. Lynn Alden is a transgender, right? Who opened up an account at Swan and thought, wow, these guys are so great. Their customer service is so great. I'm going to bring all my super rich friends from around the world. So how many super rich transgenders are there? How many are there really? Right? And then it's not real clear how Lynn Alden made this money, but she's an expert on finance. She's talking about the Fed. She's talking about monetary policy, talking about China, blah, 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 talking about the BRICS nations going to de-dollarize her. What are you going to fucking do? What are you going to do if you de-dollarize? That they've been trying that for years. They can't do it for a number of reasons. That's also the reason why CBDCs are. But this Lynn Alden opens an account at Swan, all of a sudden becomes a fucking partner at Swan for their high net worth clients. All right, how does that happen? I've never, this is one of those, lightning struck 3 times in the same fucking place. It just doesn't happen, right? There's, but the people involved in Bitcoin are still very idealistic and more than a bit naive. And they're not really ready to push back in any significant way against these people, so they There's clips of the guys from whatever, like where is it? No, not that one. Oh, I didn't have it. I'll show it next week. But the guys from Simply Bitcoin, you know, they're like, you know, why did, oh no, here it is. Oh, I actually do have it. I have it here. I'm looking at the wrong thumbnails. These kids are like, you know, they're asking the right questions, but they don't understand that their association with Swan Bitcoin is really their weakness. The fact that they feel like they have to compromise and go along with this thing. Not a great idea, but at least they're asking the right questions. Here's the question.
Do you believe inflation is necessary? And if not, why?
Why would that be true? Why would money losing value each year be necessary for productive economy? The productivity gains that humans naturally take on through finding new, better ways to solve problems would be broadly distributed to society in the best way without inflation. There'd be no transfer of money. Typically what governments like is, okay, what happens in a downturn? How do we gain more control? How do we protect people? But what they don't know they do by doing that is they make these bubbles bigger. That's where we are today, unfortunately.
You know, to play devil's advocate, of course, because I agree with you, right? But they would say, how else do we incentivize people to spend?
There is an argument that says people spend more when their money is losing value because they're scared of that money losing value. The only reason people will spend is because you're stealing their money if it's in savings. I don't believe economies should be built that way.
So that's a pretty good, that guy's Jeff Booth, smart guy, you know, and, you know, he basically outlines how the economy is designed to rob you. Okay, that is the specific design of fiat, is to steal from you. And this is the system you were born into. This is the system the whole planet lives under, and this is the system that Bitcoin is looking to change. Now, a lot of people, you know, like you hear stuff like AI and stuff. I went through. I don't have clips, but I went through like a couple of hours, 3 to 5 hours of material, listened to a bunch of different people about this. AI is not a threat to Bitcoin. It's not going to be a threat to Bitcoin if anybody was worried about that. Why is that? What AI is a language learning program, and what Bitcoin is cryptography. So Bitcoin is numbers and AI is words, okay? So, and you can't crack cryptography. You can't crack a math problem with words. You need to use math. And then further, with the amount of computing power that's being poured into Bitcoin every second of every day, it's 362 exahash, or it's like 360 exahash, which comes out to 362 quadrillion, you heard that right, quadrillion calculations per second. That's an enormous amount of computing power. So in order to defeat that, you would need even more computing power than that, which would be every computer on the face of the earth, every smartphone. They would all have to be a slave to this AI program to attack Bitcoin. And even then, even if the AI's super mega big brain, comes up with the master plan to break cryptography, to break numbers using words, again, I don't think that's possible, but even just to posit that thought, just to put it out there, the limitation of the AI is the hardware it has to use. There's no computers that are 10 times faster than the ones Bitcoin's using, right? By the time computers become 10 times faster, Bitcoin's going to be using the 10 times faster computers. So there's really no way to do this. What AI is a threat to, and this was pointed out, Michael Saylor made this point really well, and I think this is very, very likely to come up in the future, is that AI and deepfakes can make a better version of you than you, a funnier version, a smarter version, more engaging version, right? If AI can learn every printed word, like everywhere in the internet, ever written in any language, right? It can figure out what's considered funny, what's not considered funny, and then they'll spin up, because it doesn't cost them anything, they'll spin up a million different whatevers. So they can bring back if they want to bring back Humphrey Bogart, they could bring back Humphrey Bogart, and make him look alive today and make him say all sorts of stuff. And, if that made people spend money at the movie theater, they would continue to do that. But they could fake the president, they could fake anyone. And AI would be able to do this so fast and so perfectly, there's nothing you can do to stop it. So the ability to control you, to influence you with AI by creating deep fakes that say exactly what you want to hear, you know what I mean? That are the most persuasive speakers you've ever heard. They're putting the exact right combination of words in the exact right place at the exact right tempo. That's the real threat of AI. Okay, so you're not going to know. No one's going to have any clear idea of what's really happening, what's not happening, because you won't know what's real and what's AI generated, and that is a seriously big problem. So what else we got? That was my first one. I don't want to go there. But people think, everybody's talking about the debt. Everybody's talking about the debt. Everybody's talking about the debt. I think last year, the interest on the U.S. debt was $325 billion. This year, it's $525 billion. When it reaches the same as the Pentagon, $800 billion, which might be in a year or two, then shit's going to get really interesting. That's why they talk about de-dollarization. The Russians going to stop using the dollar. The Saudis are going to stop using the dollar. The Chinese going to stop using the dollar. No, they're not, for a bunch of different reasons. Even though some of these countries, China in specific, but England, Nigeria, they're trying to do this digital dollar thing. That guy Jeff Booth, the one who said, why should an economy be based on theft of savings, right? Why should the base of the economy, whether you want Hitler in charge, or you want democracy in charge, or you want a religious figure in charge, or whatever the fuck you think you want, the economic system that the politics is going to sit on top of, why does it have to be built on stealing from people who try to save, right? That's a pretty good fucking question. So if somebody's talking to you, you start thinking like, well, what's your economic system based on? Is it based on stealing from people who worked and are trying to save? Then maybe I'm not for you. That might be one principle you could hold in your mind to guide you in your journey from the white communist homosexual to whatever your ultimate form is going to be. But you don't have to stay a white commie homo, praying to fucking Hitler's ghost to save you from the Negroes and the Jews. You don't have to stay there. You know what I mean? You could move beyond that. You could actually move way beyond that. But let's talk about where the government is now, what they're trying to do. This is that chick, and this is Swan Bitcoin video. But I'm only showing Swan Bitcoin videos from actual females with actual females that were born that way. Insane Spurgman, AI should create a version of James minus the racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and transphobia. Welcome to the show, Insane Spurgman. I guess my tax dollars are being used to monitor me again. All right, so let's see what what is our government doing? What is our government doing? Where is it? Where is our government? Here we go. Here's what our government's doing.
There is no leadership at the federal level in the United States. The closest thing is a kind of reactivity to the threat of China. That is not a strategy. It's not even a set of tactics. It's basically just a disposition. Nobody has a point of view on the rolling debt crisis that is sweeping the world. What we're on the brink of globally is a sovereign debt crisis of unprecedented proportions. And the world's largest debtor is actually the United States. The main reactivity of U.S. leadership is how can we preserve the dominance of the dollar as both the global reserve asset and the global reserve currency. But that is out of their hands. That is not something that the U.S. government has direct control over. There will be an inflection point But at that point, the United States will flip into debtor who can't pay their debts mode. When countries are backed into that, that is when they do truly dangerous things.
So this is she's a very smart woman. You can see she's got hair back. She's got serious glasses on. She's well-spoken, and she's talking about what's going to happen when you can't pay your debts, right? You know what that looks like on a personal level. It's a disaster for your life, disaster for all those around you. What is it going to look like on a national and international level? Well, that's fucking really a really fucking interesting question now, is it? Right? But the thing about, this posture against China, it's really bullshit. One of my favorite words that I learned in the last few years was frenemies, which is a combination of friends and enemies. Frenemies, sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they go against each other. So the United States and China are frenemies, without a doubt. This next clip, got a guy here, it's 52 seconds. He's, at least he's posturing for the camera, you know what I mean, in politics, because, again, there's never any consequences for any of this, but it's worth showing so that you understand what level of political theater we're in.
Can you tell me what nation is the largest producer of refined lithium in the world? It's China. Can you tell me which nation is the largest producer of refined cobalt in the world?
No, Senator.
It's China. Do you know what nation is the largest exporter of natural graphite to the United States globally?
No, Senator.
It's China. So in all of these instances, these mandates, your decision to trade off our energy security in favor of a radical climate change agenda, is making us more and more dependent on China. And at the same time, you are denying mining, blocking permits for mines in this country that would allow us to develop nickel and copper and cobalt. Why? Why block the development of these resources in our own nation in favor of making us dependent on China?
Okay. So, rhetorical question. Same thing happened during the Cold War. The U.S. government seized all the gold mining equipment, shipped it to Russia, and then they shut down all the gold mines in America. They did this with tons of stuff. You know what I mean? They took all of the merchant marine fleet that the Germans didn't fucking sink, and then loaded it up with $100 million worth of vodka and sent it to Moscow, so that the communists could stay happily drunk while their Goy war slaves, were put into a meat grinder against the Germans. So it's this same thing. China was created by America. When I was a boy and they showed the People's Republic of China on television, they had the same fucking loop of fucking, I realized it was loop tape. It would show like the Forbidden City building, like, you would see that, you would see the gates there and the roof. And there would be all these people riding on the road with bicycles, like hundreds and hundreds of people riding bicycles round and round and round and round. And this was China flexing its technological muscle. You know what I mean? Look, we can make a bicycle. You know what I mean? This was in 1970. I think the bicycle was invented in 1870. China at least 100 years behind in every fucking way. So they do have a CBDC, central bank digital currency, that they've been working on for a long time. As well as the Bank of England is working on this, and Nigeria is working on this, and nobody wants it. And it's these things are doomed to fail, but they're not going to fail right away because the people behind them are going to push them, make it work, make it work, make it work. But you cannot make it work. And the reason why you cannot make it work, and this is only going to strengthen the US dollar. The US dollar is only going to get stronger because of these failures. Who is going to want, outside of China, the digital yuan? What are you going to do with it? So let's say England gets the English pound or the e-pound or whatever, right? The digital pound. Is England big enough by itself, and is its economy dynamic enough to be self-sustaining? No, it's a little island in the middle of nowhere. It needs everything. Everything has to be fucking imported. You know what I mean? They have oil to export, but England imports every fucking thing. You know what I mean? They always did. Their Navy kept the sea lanes open back in the day. So the digital pound, how will that interface with the digital yuan? What do? And you can't control how many digital yuan the Chinese make, so you can't control the value of that, right? And you can't control, and the Chinese can't control the value of the digital pound. So you won't be able to do trade, any kind of trade. So all these CBDCs are doomed to fucking fail. All of them are doomed to fail. And the American government is gonna sense that. Enough people will make it clear to people in the people in charge not to push too hard for CBDC. I know the Biden administration says they want it, but they're just not going to get it. In theory, the digital dollar could be the global reserve currency, or why not? Why not have digital dollars instead of treasury bonds and all this other shit? The reason why is because the federal government will know, the U.S. government will know who has every dollar everywhere in a foreign country, and they'll be able to take it anytime they want. So which foreign dictator wants his bank account emptied by America, in the blink of an eye? He goes to sleep, he's got, $10 billion that, of value that he's stolen from his own country. And he wakes up in the morning and it's all gone. You know what I mean? Because it's not in cash. It's in digits. And, somebody, the U.S. just decided those digits don't exist anymore. So, who's going to go along with that? Nobody's going to go along with that. So all of these central bank digital currencies are doomed to fail because you cannot trade them internationally. In order to do effective trade internationally for anything, you want TVs to come in from South Korea, you want oil from Saudi Arabia, you want to ship out food, you want to ship food in, you want to, I don't know, whatever there is, right? You want to do engineering projects overseas. You want America to build power plants or airports or shipping ports or whatever. How are you going to do that? What are you going to exchange? If the American digital system does not match up exactly with the foreign country's digital currency, you're not going to take it because it's worthless to you. What can you do with it? So all of this shit is doomed to fail. Nobody at the top thinks things through. They just say what they want and they make the underlings do it. And the underlings don't have the guts to go, listen, this is fucking impossible. But guys like that dude I just showed, Jeff Booth, very smart man, thinks deeply about these sort of things. And like I said, I sat through hours and hours of material just to get to those nuggets. So AI, not a threat. CBDCs, all guaranteed to fail. Ultimately, this will make the dollar even more powerful around the world, at least, and we will export all this inflation, and then you'll have Lebanons and Sri Lankas and all these other fucking riots. But again, the lesser, the weaker criminal gangs that run governments will just dollarize. They will dollarize. They will just adopt the dollar. They won't use their currency anymore. They'll just use the dollar. It won't be the rupiah or the peso or the whatever. They'll just dollarize. And this will buy some time for America. But ultimately, we're going to need better money because they can, as we've shown, they can flood the system with money endlessly. There's no amount of money they can't create. So that leads us to the one thing that everyone can use that no one can stop, which is Bitcoin. So this is a longish video, 7.5 minutes or so, on the history of money and why Bitcoin is the best money ever created.
You'll always have a world of promises, and then you'll always have these scarce assets that people use as store of value across generations. And Bitcoin has entered that realm of a good store of value across generations, even with only 14 years of history.
The ping you hear is the distinct sound of a real gold coin. It's just one of the ways to verify the authenticity of the metal contained within. This gold-plated tungsten counterfeit coin, not so much. This one doesn't ring true. This is where the term sound money comes from, and the recognizability or verifiability of gold is one of the key attributes of what makes for good money.
Money is an asset that best satisfies 5 critical properties: divisibility, durability, recognizability, portability, and scarcity.
A ubiquitous part of our daily lives, money has a rich and intriguing history that stretches back thousands of years. From the earliest forms of trade to the modern digital era, the evolution of money is a fascinating tale of human ingenuity and societal progress.
It allows us to trade. It allows us to develop the division of labor, which would not be possible at any kind of sophisticated level without money.
To overcome the limitations of barter, societies gradually adopted commodity money, comprised of valuable items such as seashells, beads, salt, tobacco, or anything that was universally recognized and accepted as a medium of exchange.
And it can be anything. It can be a banana, it can be food, it can be any kind of good. As long as I acquire the good with the purpose of it passing it on to you, not with the purpose of me consuming it.
And so you see in the history around the world, and you go to places. I was in an island in the Pacific in which they had as money these big stones. And literally, they were taking a boat, this big carved stone, and they were taking it from one of the islands to the other, and it sank, and it went to the bottom, and they still perceived it as having value.
Gold and silver emerged as the preferred commodities because of their durability and scarcity. But with the expansion of trade and commerce, carrying large quantities of precious metals became cumbersome and fraught with risk. In response, societies began using paper money, which represented a claim on a specific amount of gold or silver stored in banks. This transition brought forth the rise of banking institutions, where individuals could deposit their precious metals and receive paper notes as a more convenient form of currency.
It was a sound system in theory, but it broke. That's why that situation ended in 1971.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
When the U.S. went off the gold standard, it marked the end of sound money. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency since the Bretton Woods Agreement after World War II. But for the last 50 years, there is nothing backing the dollar except government fiat. In other words, the dollar has value simply because the government declared it to be so. And it's all enabled by the central bank.
It's a country's authority which controls their monetary system. And the U.S. Federal Reserve was established in 1913, and they snuck it through around Christmas time when nobody was there to vote on it. It's really a money trust. And what it allows is for cantillionaires to take advantage of everybody else by printing the money to bail themselves out. And they basically control when the money is issued and at what price.
This idea of sound money is an old concept that people are grasping onto today because they realize that this layered money system has nothing at the top that is physical.
With nothing sound backing the dollar, the money supply is untethered from economic reality. More and more money is printed in the form of debt, and the consequences are kicked down the road. Unelected central bankers with all too human flaws are in charge of the cost of borrowing and the number of dollars flowing through the system, and that number continues to go up.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money?
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money.
In the fiat system, the way that you mine a new currency into existence is through lending. When your bank makes a new loan, they don't take somebody else's money and give it to you. They make new money, essentially, out of thin air, and they hand it to you. They put it in your bank account.
They'll accuse the U.S. government of making money out of thin air. Maybe we do, but we're the U.S. government.
Anyone who cares to take a look at the inflation of the money supply, which leads to significant asset inflation, can see the problem here. The more money printed into existence dilutes everyone's purchasing power, leading to wealth inequality and worse.
The problem with our money is that there's no objective source of truth. It's always allowed to be manipulated. The line of what is true and what isn't changes depending upon how much power you have how much positional authority you have, or what geographical jurisdiction you have in the world.
Gold and gold-backed paper currency, while not perfect, worked okay for the last few thousand years of human history. But what if there was something better?
What I liked about Bitcoin was it was a digital gold or a digital property that you couldn't inflate. So call it digital gold without all the imperfections of gold.
What's actually happening is you have a bearer instrument inside a network with unlimited velocity.
Bitcoin is an open, programmable source of exchanging value across time and space that we can all access.
The reason it's so genius, and the reason Satoshi's an artist, and the reason Bitcoin has effectively affected money is because Satoshi took away all of the indivisibility, all of the decomposability, all of the unrecognizability, all of the immovability, and all of the unpredictability from money. He maximally removed all of these negative aspects of money to deliver us the quasi-perfection that is Bitcoin.
If the story of human progress is marked by innovation and the technology of money is the language of value, we may have finally invented an incorruptible way to communicate with each other, globally, instantaneously, and most of all, truthfully.
You'll always have a world of promises, and then you'll always have these scarce assets that people use as store of value across generations. And Bitcoin has entered that realm of a good store of value across generations, even with only 14 years of history. It's already proving that it's on that track. I think that's one of the most bullish things about Bitcoin is its properties are known, they're well known. The speculation of what it can do in the future is up for debate. But what it is today, I think it's really being cemented.
Pretty slick, no? Swan, you know, there's, even though they're compromised, in my opinion, with that Lynn Alden individual, the videos that they produce are so slick, so well made. They get right to the point. I'm just going to take their content and use it in whatever way I see fit, and just going to ignore the fact that they tolerate degeneracy. But that just shows how Bitcoin's, you know, it's not going anywhere. They can't stop it, but it's not strong enough yet to take over the world. But it will be. It most certainly will be. Where are we at? 47 minutes. All right. So in the teaser before I went to the intro music, I mentioned best deal in the history of deals, or worst deal in the history of deals, whichever way you want to see it. So this is going to be another video. It's one of the guys from Simply Bitcoin. He's going to talk about something that I'll give you some perspective on at the end. This is another longish clip, so 8 minutes or so, 8 minutes 10 seconds. And little trip deeper into the history of money.
I've made some videos about the NGU, number go up, aspect about Bitcoin, and many other people have done the same thing. Oftentimes people talk about $1 million Bitcoin, $10 billion Bitcoin, $1 trillion Bitcoin, pick a number. The price is going up. In today's video, I'm going to look at the price in a very realistic lens. Let's get into it. One of the most, and yet at the same time least, interesting things about Bitcoin is NGU, number go up. I say it's one of the most interesting things because if it didn't have that aspect, not many people would care about it. Oh, I heard it was worth X dollars this year, and now it's worth so many more X dollars. Wow, how interesting. It'd be kind of like saying the most interesting thing about gravity is that stuff falls down, and that's sort of missing the point. I recorded this on Memorial Day, May 29th, 2023. And in today's live show, Opti and Nico talked about this video that was tweeted out by Guy Swan here. And you're talking about the Sailor video back in 2012. The stock is going to 2,000, and guy says, with a 7-to-1 split in 2014 and a 4-to-1 in 2020, the price at the weight of when then the comment was made, the price would be $4,900. Now keep that in mind as I go over this tweet. This is from Seth Michael Steele, at Seth_Michael Steele. Been seeing this floating around Twitter. Quote, take a look at the past halvings. 2012 Bitcoin halving. Price was $182. After a year, $510. 2016 Bitcoin halving. Price $661. After a year, $2,600. 2020 Bitcoin halving, the most recent one. Price $8,600. After a year, $58,000. And he goes on to say, and I find it interesting. Here's why. In 2012, we saw a 2.8, I'm going to round up here, 2.8 times. In 2016, we saw a 3.9 times. In 2020, a 6.7 times. He says, notice anything or the lack thereof? Where are the diminishing returns? From 2012 to 2016, there was a 1.4x in returns. From 2016 to 2020, there was a 1.7x in returns. Due to the lack of metrics in the grand scheme, it is difficult/ineffective to try and establish a pattern so early. Believe me, we are so early. But following the numbers we have so far, it would not be surprising to see a 2.1x in returns when comparing 2024 to 2020. This would mean potentially a 14.1x in the year following the halving. This seems too good to be true, and I'm planning on sticking to my predetermined plan for Bitcoin accumulation. But I would not be surprised to see a $390,000 Bitcoin by 2025. Don't get me wrong, number go up is the least of my worries, but I do believe you must first appreciate number go up to fully appreciate 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. I found that tweet because of Knut Svanhold. I think I'm saying his name somewhat right. He said here, Bitcoin is worth 280 times more today than 10 years ago. The same development over the next 10 years would mean a $7,840,000 price per Bitcoin in 2033. Perspective shifts fast indeed. I'm bringing all this up because I want you to wrap your head around an idea right now. How do you get money? Whatever money it is that you operate in, USD, pesos, ruples, etc. How do you get that? What do you do? If you're like me, the primary way that I get USD to pay for the bills that my wife and I have is by going to work. I trade my time and energy in exchange for money, USD, currency, US dollars. The reason I mention that is because this right here is one of the most interesting numbers in all of Bitcoin to me. This right here. Currently, it is sitting at 3,615. You can trade a single dollar for 3,615 sats. The reason that is so important is because of this right here. When Bitcoin is worth 7,840,000, you'll get 12 sats for $1. Do you understand how drastically different that is? The reason why that's so important to understand is because there will be a point in time where you cannot trade dollars for Bitcoin anymore. And that's the point that people have talked about. People have talked about how there is a point in the future, and the not so distant future, honestly, probably within your and my lifetimes, where people go, the way I transact, the way I buy my coffee, pay my rent, is with Bitcoin, with sats. So I don't have any interest in your US dollar. It's continually inflated. It's worth nothing. It's effectively sand at this point. It's like those pictures that we've seen of the Weimar Republic or down in Venezuela, where the people are just heaps and heaps and bags of this paper currency that have thousands or million written on them because it's nothing. It's just fluff. It's barely worth the paper that it's printed on. The reason I started with that Saylor video is because Michael Saylor is a visionary. He is an extremely smart individual. He understands things from first principles. Once you spend the requisite time understanding Bitcoin, doing the research, and you understand that something so simple is the answer to so many extremely complicated problems, then these prices, the 7 million, 10 billion, whatever the case is, don't really matter anymore. You start to understand that those prices are denominated in today's dollars. But when everything, and I mean everything, every country, every nation state, every person on the planet goes, I don't want any of that garbage currency. I want the best money that has ever existed in all of history. And even AI are going, hey, I want some of that too. Because paper money that can be inflated by the whims of some corrupt politicians, that's not of any interest to me. I want something that is connected to the physical, something that requires actual energy, real energy. When the AI and every person on the planet, every sentient being in existence wants one money, how do you put a price on that? It's you can't. There isn't a price for that. So the idea that right now, today, you can spend a single piddly measly dollar for 3,000 plus sats is mind-blowing. Our children and our children's children, and certainly our great-grandchildren, it won't make sense to them. It'll be similar to the Louisiana Purchase. Wait, you bought an entire section of land for peanuts? Oh, back in 1803, honestly, not that long ago, a couple hundred years ago, $15 million was spent for this. This enormous chunk of land was purchased for $15 million. 828,000 square miles of land for $15 million. I don't know that there's ever been a better, depending on whose side you are, deal or worse deal in all of human history. But I'm just a guy, and here I am saying crazy numbers, and you're saying, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, fine. Maybe I don't, but I am just parroting the thoughts of other people far smarter than me. People like Jurian Timmer, director of global macro at Fidelity Investments, believes that one Bitcoin could be worth $1 billion by the year 2038. $1 billion. That is way more than Knut Svansholm's 7.8 million right here. Way more. Here, remember this? When Bitcoin is worth 7.8 million, you get 12 sats. But how many do you get when the price is $1 billion per Bitcoin? You ready for this? Do you get one? Do you get five? You get a tenth of one. You get a tenth of one. When the price of Bitcoin is $1 billion, you can't even trade $1 for 1 sat at that price. It gets you a tenth of a sat. I'm not interested in it for me. I'm interested in it for the future generations. That is what you should be considering when you invest in Bitcoin. Do it for all of humanity. Do it because it makes the most sense. And nothing, and I do mean that, nothing else even comes close.
So that guy's pretty good. Made a really good point about the Louisiana Purchase. 828,000 square miles. Think about that entire section of the United States. How much is it worth today, right? 200 years ago, it was worth $15 million. Think of the airports, the factories, all of the residential houses, all of the businesses, the highways that are there, the like everything. You know what I mean? Think of what the dollar value of the Louisiana Purchase. If you just cut that section out of America, how much would it be worth? Would it be like, I probably wouldn't be worth 1/3, but it might be worth, actually it might be worth, say 1/3 of the entire United States, which is a hell of a lot more than $15 million. And for perspective, Barack Obama and his husband bought a house on Martha's Vineyard, one house, for $15 million. So, you know, like, think of $15 million a couple hundred years ago versus $15 million today. What does $15 million get you today? You're not getting 828,000 square miles of forests and rivers and fucking everything else. You know, that Bitcoiners, like I said, they're visionaries. They're a bit naive, but they are thinking about the future. And that guy in that clip mentioned Weimar Germany, right? Weimar Germany was less than 100 years ago. And I've showed this clip in the past, or I showed a still in the past when I used to do screenshots. But during Weimar Germany, one solid gold Deutschmark eventually became worth 1 billion paper Deutschmarks. So now he didn't make that, he didn't draw that analogy because he doesn't think about the last 100 years in the same way that I do, or maybe some other people do. But within the last 100 years, there was an advanced European nation, that's Germany, that you could not get, or you needed to have 1 billion paper dollars or Deutschmarks or one solid gold Deutschmark. So the idea that, well, okay, that was true for physical gold, but it's not going to be true for Bitcoin, it's not impossible. It's not at all impossible. And it may even, it's more than likely. People don't want to look at that because everyone just thinks, oh, I wish I would have bought, I wish I knew about Bitcoin in 2011 when it was, $15 or something like that, or $25, and I would have went all in on it. No, you wouldn't have. Like, the price is down as of now. I think we're at 25K or something like that. So we're down 6% in a day, and people are like pulling their hair out of their heads. Number go up over time. You know what I mean? Think 10 years ahead. Think 10 years ahead. That's what we try to get you to do. That's what Bitcoiners try to get you to do. That's what they do. And it's something that people are not, they just aren't very good at, And I've said it before, if you're predisposed to this sort of content, if you're predisposed to start looking for some sort of alternative, then this show is going to make a lot of sense to you. But if you look at me and go, well, I really don't like that guy. Who's the Fed in the chat? Oh, I stop being anti-Semitic. Fuck you, Fed cocksucker. Stop being a racist. Fuck your mother, you fucking nappy-headed bitch. This is like the last of fucking free speech, and the only free speech. Rush Limbaugh wasn't free speech. Alex Jones is not free speech. All of these guys are designed to just keep you, penned in, just keep you within the system that others have created for you. So that's why you got to take the orange pill. And you want to talk about mimetic power. The power of memes is really greater than any rational argument. So a lot of people, by the way, you did smash up the like button, right? You're smashing up the like button as we're going along. All of you coming into the show like, oh yeah, I forgot to smash up the like button. Because you have a content creator, creating content and using their own face and saying stuff that nobody else says. So it's kind of worth smashing up the like button, don't you think? But I got a meme here. This is a meme. This is super clever. This was brilliantly done. I love it, and I want to show it 100 times. The concept of being red pilled or blue pilled, right? Are you red pilled or are you a blue pilled normie? Well, tell you what. Let's go into the Matrix Reloaded.
Fiat is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, all thinking that they earn for themselves, believing the money they use is a tool of trade, not of control. You have to understand that most of these people are not ready to see it. Many of them are so invested, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they would fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you thinking about cheap money? I was... Look again. Reset. This isn't a free market? No. It is a system designed to do one thing. Take power from us and give it to them. Who are they? Cantillionaires. They can manipulate and steal any value stored within their system, directing us into a dystopia where they say we'll own nothing, but be happy. Within Fiat, they are the masters, and we are the slaves. We've survived by begging for bigger handouts from the money printer, but they are the gatekeepers. We store our hopes and dreams in the tokens of their false promises, and the only way out is to fix the money. Bitcoin. I won't lie to you, Neo. Every other attempt at independent money and every electronic cash has died. But where they have failed, Bitcoin will succeed. Why? I've seen journalists who expose them ruined, watch them defraud us for trillions and no one went to jail. But their wealth and their power are still based on a world where they must sell their souls, and because of that, they will never be as sovereign or as free as you can be. What are you trying to tell me? I can sell my Bitcoin for millions one day? No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
Have you ever seen anything quite as slick as that? The time and effort that that guy put in to digitize that scene, to cut the soundtrack from the video, and then to resync it, change the wording. That's a level of intensity, talent, and commitment that Bitcoiners have that nobody else has. You know what I mean? So that's taking the orange pill. That is, I remember seeing that and that video was old. That video is, I don't know, maybe 5-7 years old. Like, it's old. But you know, it is just as good today as it was then. And thankfully I remembered it. I can't even believe how I remember some stuff sometimes. Stuff I saw years ago, it sticks in my head. And then I think, hey, can I find that online? Can I find that on YouTube? Can I dig that up somehow, some way? And I do. And I bring it to you. So what else do we got? Okay, let's talk. There's another guy. There's a guy named Steven Lopka, who I don't think is. Oh, I think is a boy. I don't like him because he's got hippie hair. He's got this like long blonde hair. But he's the Swan Bitcoin high net worth individual point of contact. Like he's the manager for that. And so you know, let's hear what Mr. Lopka has to say. He's being interviewed at Bitcoin Miami recently. This is a brief clip, 1 minute. But Swan Bitcoin, the one that makes all these slick videos and has probably the most high net worth users in any company. Well, let's see what he has to say.
What is your Bitcoin price outlook?
If I were to say $1 out of every $100 that people invest into stocks, real estate, gold, they were to invest in Bitcoin, do you think that future could happen? Most people would say yes. If that's the case, the price of Bitcoin is exponentially higher. The reason Bitcoin might capture part of those asset buckets is because there's a monetary premium. Real estate values are 10% or 20% or 30% higher than they would be if that wasn't happening. And so the thesis with Bitcoin is if you have an asset that you can just save money in as money, then maybe that 30% monetary premium on real estate comes down to 10% and Bitcoin captures the difference.
What is your most likely price point for Bitcoin come 2024?
I would be pretty confident that we see Bitcoin in the six figures, I'm going to say by the end of 2024.
Is there a 5-year Bitcoin forecast that the Swan team has?
Relative to prices today, we could see $1 million Bitcoin by 2030.
So Lopka's thesis is if $1 out of every $100 that gets invested in the United States goes to Bitcoin, we get to $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. Well, what if he's wrong by a factor of 10? What if it's only 10 cents out of every $100? Right? What if it's of that means $99.90 just of investment capital, stocks, real estate, like you said, bonds, all of that just ignores Bitcoin, right? It only gets 10 cents out of every $100. Well, that still takes Bitcoin from $25,000 to $100,000 in a couple of years. So why would you not want to ride that? Like, why would you think, oh yeah, I'll just let that go because you don't have anything better going on? So even if he's wrong by a factor of 10, the future is really, really bright. But you have to make that happen, right? You have to come to the conclusion that you need to do something, that no one's coming to rescue you. You have to be an active participant in your own rescue. And then you have to start making decisions and act on those decisions. So And at the end of the day, it all boils down to you. It ultimately all boils down to you. Do you trust the guys at the money printer? You know, whether you think they're all small hats or you don't think they're small hats, do you trust them? Are you going to put your future, your children's future, your grandchildren's future in their hands? You know, if so, then you don't belong here. You know what I mean? You belong at the local Communist Party meeting selling fucking LGBTQ clothing for fucking children. You know what I mean? That's probably your fucking dream job. But if you're thinking, hey, you know what? Those guys with the funny hats who print the money are not entirely trustworthy. You might want to think about taking 10 cents of whatever you use, 10 cents out of what you save, and start putting that into Bitcoin as a hedge against this. Now, like I said, that guy Lupka, he's whatever the top guy for the high net worth clients, and they went into the high net worth client things. Oh, by the way, that girl, that female, Michelle Marcouri, she's from South Africa. My God, what a beauty she is. That chick is crazy gorgeous and smart. Like if you watch that whole Stephen Lupka interview, this woman's a really, really, really smart interviewer. She knows what questions to ask about a number of different topics. At any rate, aside from pretty blonde girl, the thing about Lupka is he is in touch with these wealthy people, and to date, there's only 2 publicly traded companies, MicroStrategy and Tesla, that own Bitcoin. But they're the first 2, but they will be the last 2. Because people still don't understand it, and they're still waiting for someone to come rescue them. You know, Joe Biden's going to come up with a program. Donald Trump's going to come back and rescue you. Bernie Sanders, Ron DeSantis, some other guy, some whatever. What's her name? The one from Hawaii, the Hindu chick. I forgot her name. What's her name? I can picture her so perfect. And it doesn't make a difference. So you keep waiting for someone to rescue you, and they're not going to rescue you. Right? What I suggest is you start, if you want to achieve something, then you start doing stuff. And here's a guy, I'm going to show you, get some video of this guy. I've shown still pictures of him before. Man's name is Brian Shaw. He is 4 times, 4 times winner of World's Strongest Man. He's been competing at the World's Strongest Man at the global level 16 times in a row. No one else has been made it to that contest 16 times. And he's, like I said, he's won 4 times, and he's been on the box. I don't know, on the box like 2nd or 3rd, whatever, numerous times, out of 8 or 9 times or something. So this is literally, and he's 6'9". Mind you, he's a man that's 6'9", and I think at the time you're looking at this video, his body weight is probably somewhere like 415 pounds. But, and this is his last year, he did poorly in World's Strongest Man. I think he got 8th. Which is not at all what he was hoping for. Things didn't go his way, and he ended up coming 8th. And this is his last year in a competition. But he does a podcast, and this is a brief 1-minute clip on how a multi-time world champion thinks about things. If you're going to be a multi-time world champion, this is how you need to think.
I remember feeling like when I was a kid, for whatever reason, and my thing was basketball back then. So I remember always feeling like there was somebody working harder than me. And my biggest thing was I wanted to get a college scholarship to play. So I'm practicing, and it was late at night, but I hadn't made, I used to set goals for myself. So I'd say I had 10 free throws in a row. I had to make 10 free throws in a row or before I could go inside. And I would stay outside until that was done. And then I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I always felt like somebody was working harder. So it was this, like, it would eat away at me, to be fair, literally eat away. And I didn't know who that person was. It was an imaginary opponent. Now, was there somebody working hard? Certainly there was.
It's not an imaginary opponent.
Yeah.
Not when you want to be the best in the world.
No, and with strongman, it's kind of the same thing. kind of the same thing, right? Because I can
Not kinda. It's definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, right? Because
Yeah.
there's always somebody bigger and stronger, and that's so extreme because there's so many different movements.
So okay, so that other guy's talking about the sport of how to lift shit and run stuff. But the key takeaway there is that Brian Shaw set arbitrary goals for himself, right? He set a goal and he would not rest until he achieved that goal. And even after he achieved the goal, he felt like I need to do more. That he thinks there's someone out there who did not 10 free throws in a row, but 12 or 15, you know, and then he would, you know, not be competitive with that guy. So that's the mindset you have to have. So if you so, well, how does this apply to economics and protecting yourself from hyperinflation and the culture rod and all this stuff? How do you have to think, what can I do to protect myself, my family, and future generations? What can I do? And do that thing. And then, you know, you may be laying in bed at night thinking, well, is there something more I could do? Is there something else I could do? Could I be doing this better? Could I be doing that better? And if you genuinely have that mindset, you will achieve any of these goals that you set out to achieve. But most of the people who complain about shit, listen, you just read a fucking book one time. You know what I mean? You're good at reading books, so you read this book, and then you think you're better than everyone else because, you know, somebody else didn't bother reading the book, or can't read the book, or can't understand the words in the book. But the thing about guys like Brian Shaw, who lift heavy shit, is that they go into contests and they lift heavy shit against other dudes who lift heavy shit. That is to say, they compete. They want to know who's the best at lifting really heavy shit. Okay? And people want to see that. People like sports and they like athletics and they want to see that. Who's the strongest person in America? Who's the strongest person in Europe? Who's the strongest man on the face of the earth? That's interesting. That's exciting for people to watch. And so they do that. But for people who just read books and they go, well, I read this book, and I read that book, and I read this other book, and that makes me smarter than you. You know, there's no contest for book readers, right? It's just your own personal arrogance. Like, oh, I can't tell you how many fucking books I've read in my lifetime. Like, a lot of them are crap. A handful were really good. But you know, I don't walk around thinking I don't talk to people like fucking, I don't talk down to people ever, like anybody. You know what I mean? I treat everybody, I give everybody a fair shot. Whether they understand me or they don't understand me, I give everybody a fair shot. I don't dump shit down. So, because I don't think that, well, you know, sitting on my ass, running my eyes across the page makes me superior. You know what I mean? It doesn't. Maybe I learned something, maybe I didn't learn something. Maybe I can apply that in life. Maybe I can't apply that in life. Maybe it's just fucking delusion. You know, you find that out with experience. But I don't look down at guys like Brian Shaw. In fact, I admire them because at the end of the day, they work their fucking balls off, and they go up against the best competition in the world. And those guys, particularly in that sport, this is kind of unique to that sport because it's an individual sport. But I consume a fair amount of social media around that activity. They all say the same thing. They all say to each other, and they're friendly, but they're smiling, but there's a fucking an animal underneath there, and they all say, I want to beat you, but I want to beat you at your best. It's not like some other thing where some other areas of human contention where you just want to beat the guy and you just, you want your opponent to be an 85-year-old cripple on crutches, you know what I mean? And you want to be 25 on steroids. Like, it's not like that. They look at each other and they go, I want you healthy. I don't want you injured. I want you well rested, well fed. I want you at your best. And that's what I want to be. That's a very different competitive mindset than a lot of other sportsmen have, right? I'm going to go through one more. This is I've been saving this clip for a while. Where this is understand that the way you think things are going to go is not the way things are going to go. And there are people in particular, I'm going to show, this is a 28-second clip. It's amongst my favorite of, I don't know how many combat sports clips I have ever seen, but this one is as underrated is going to be. It will not be properly appreciated for some decades to come. But this is the very end, the last 28 seconds of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder in their third match. Watch.
An uppercut. It could be all over now. It will be now. That surely is going to be the end of the fight. Fury's already celebrating, and the fight is all over. It's all over, and Wilder is beaten, and Fury in the 11th round gets the stoppage he craves. Sensational fight, brilliant ending. Fury has dismantled Deontay Wilder.
The bald, pot-bellied, weird-looking Englishman, right, beats the guy that looked like he was fucking built to win the heavyweight championship of the world. Beats him for the third time. And if you really want to watch people cry, you want to see people cry online, find highlights of that fight, clips or whatever, the entire fight, ton of stuff of that on YouTube, and just go in the comment section. Go down into the comment section, right? And click newest. There's a tab that says newest. Click newest and read how millions of fucking people are coping with, they can't deal with it, with the reality in front of them. You know what I mean? Because in their world, black guys always win fights, and if you got muscles and abs, you're gonna win, and blah 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 blah. And in particular, Tyson Fury, is an absolutely unique individual. And by the way, he's very hip to the JQ. He was, you can find video of him talking about the JQ some years ago. But, the reality is it made him very depressed and suicidal. But understanding that, and he had to overcome that and became like super religious, super Christian dude. But the point is that aside, he doesn't look like he can do what he can do, but he did what he did not once, not twice, but 3 times. Unfortunately, the culture we're in, you're not allowed to be black dudes at anything. You're not allowed to be certainly more athletic or better fighters. And you can't be like, and Fury's great with the promotional stuff, and he's super loquacious and talks a ton of shit. He's like a promoter's dream. He opens his mouth and everybody goes crazy. So my point is, this guy did the work. He didn't just show up. It wasn't handed. He wanted to fight the best of the best. And no matter what you think it's supposed to look like, no matter how you think it's supposed to go, the difference is the guy who works harder. The difference is the guy who works harder, who goes that one extra step and goes that one extra step and goes that one extra step. And how you do that in your life, what that looks like, is going to vary somewhat from individual to individual. But like I said, if you trust the people in charge and you trust the people with the money printer, then you don't belong here. You know what I mean? Smash up the like button anyway, but you don't belong here. If you think, hey, I don't know, these guys are not trustworthy people, I better do something, then do something and start that process. Start that process in your head, and start acting in a way that you're going to be at least partially satisfied. You may not be 100% satisfied with what you're capable of, how much you can change your circumstances, how radically you can make things go your way. It may be only baby steps at first, but take those steps. And anyway, that's largely the message of this show. But anyway, where are we at? 1 hour, 23 minutes, 59 seconds. In the comments, what do we got? We got Earl Pipe, who I think is a Fed, and the Saints Birdman, who I also think is a Fed. I'm not sure. I'll look like in the live chat a couple of days from now, and if there's no Earl Pipe and there's no Insane Spurgman, then both beds, because their comments just magically disappear from the chat. Virgil Doc Purple Heart, always a trooper and a patriot, I'm sure. His messages always appear in the chat because he's a real person. Anyway, that's all I have for you tonight on this special Bitcoin Matrix Orange Pill Super Slick video edition of the Chill Stream. And one more time, if you haven't smashed up the like button, why haven't you smashed the like button? You need to do that. Let's put that up on screen. Let us put that up on screen. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. And I'm going to play the outro music, and I will see you next week.